Alrighty. So thank you guys again for joining us. So this is going to be 2021's project and record book workshop. So Mr. Ted and I are going to show you all the things that you need to do to earn that fair point and bring home the pretty blue ribbon and pin. Before we get started, there is a quick poll that I want to see if you guys can answer the questions first. So for our first, go ahead and fill it out. There's a couple of questions. And we'll see how you do at the end. This is just seeing what you guys already know. So the first question is, have you turned in a record or project book before? Some of you are new to it, some of you are not. And then it kind of asks you some trickier questions. So go ahead and interact with those screens and let me know your answers. And some of these are really easy questions. Oh, they're rolling in. We got 3 of y'all done, a couple more to go. And everybody that knows me knows I love my data. So you guys know I'm all sorts of excited getting to see these numbers pop in. All right, you guys were super fast about that. So we're gonna go ahead and end that for now. And we're gonna see the same exact poll at the end, just so that we can kind of show you guys what's going on. So the first one, have you turned in a project or record book before? For my 2 new friends that have never seen it, congratulations. We hopefully are going to teach you quite a bit. And for those that are returning, hopefully you guys can do even better. For the true and false, that record books have a built-in report. This is absolutely true. All your record books do, but your project books do not. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. True or false, one report can be used for multiple project books. And this is actually true. And we'll show you that. So hopefully it'll be a little less work for quality things. So that one's actually a happy surprise. Can Ms. Kelsey or Mr. Ted help you ahead of time? Yes, and we would be more than happy to look over anything and give you feedback. True or false, you can turn in your fair record book for a 4-H award. The answer is true, but you must fill out a report. So those are good. You guys are already doing those record books anyway. Might as well get extra credit for it. And last but not least, when our project and record books due every year? Always, 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 always June 1st. So that's an easy date to remember. Okay, so moving forward. All right, Ted, let's talk about what is a project.
Miss Kelsey, can you let Emma in, please?
I can.
Okay, so a project it's defined as any area where you spend more than 6 hours learning. It's used for the base of competitions, speeches, demonstrations, and it can also be discovery, short-term interests. It can be a group or an individual effort. And if you're in a group, you have to do your own book for it to be recognized. So there's a lot of different projects, a lot of different subjects, a lot of different projects. And a lot of different project books available.
So the first question we get is, why in the world do I even need to do this? Just curious, I know we got a couple of parents hanging out there, and do any of your parents still have their old 4-H record books from back when they were a kid? Emma, I know your mom has hers. Yeah, I see a couple of you guys. Yeah, so it's definitely something that you start creating those.
This is Melissa, Key and Kai's mom. I have ours.
Yeah,
I have all my old ones.
that's awesome. It's definitely really fun to look back on, what was 4-H like a few, even 10, 20 years ago. It's great for history. It's also really cool to track, like, say you were working in, I'm going to pick on Key and Kai and their sheep project. It's really cool to use those record books as a way to show how they're growing within that project. So maybe that was the first year that they got to shear the sheep entirely by themselves. That's a big day. So it's really cool to have that memory building and to share it with your family, your friends, and future 4-H agents that come in and go, oh my gosh, what did you get to do? That's really cool. It's also a fair point activity. So a lot of our members look for ways to get that fair point so they can attend the fair. So doing a record or project book is an easy way to do that. For all of my youth that are looking towards going for scholarships or college or job applications, you can actually use the hard data that you pull from your record books as part of your experience for those. So it's a great way to start building that portfolio now with stuff that you're already doing. For seniors, if you are ever interested in going for those big scholarships, they're going to need you to pull data from your previous record books for that state recognition. So keeping track of them year to year, not just tossing them when you're done, is an easy way to put you in that front run for those big scholarships. If you guys are a little bit not skilled in your organizational tactics, I'm kind of scatterbrained myself. So it kind of helps reteach you some new ways to keep track of everything, especially budgeting. A lot of you that are working in animal science projects, it's a good way to know what your actual budget is and what those budgets cost to run that project. So it makes you do a little bit better at organizing that. But ultimately, every single one of our 4-H members are already doing this work anyway, especially those that are going for the fair. So why not do 1 or 2 little extra steps and get recognized for it? So it's a big critical piece of the 4-H puzzle. So the next question we often get is, what is the difference between a project and record book? So Mr. Ted will teach you about project books and I will teach you about record books.
So a project book is just what it says. It's a book and it's a curriculum, and most of the curriculums are produced and created by the university, so you can trust the materials themselves. But most importantly, it's experiential and it has activities. And usually the books will come with a leader or parent guide as well to go along with it. So it's like a facilitator guide if you're the parents or the club leader, then you can use that as a way to teach the curriculum, because a lot of times you'll have different ages trying to, if you're in a club, you'll have different ages of youth trying to complete the same activities. So the leader's guides are very good for giving tips and advice on how to present the information if it's unfamiliar. It can be, some of them are actually series of books, so you can complete the activities in the books over a period of years. And it does require an additional report. And if you do the series of books, you just do one at a time, and they kind of build in complexity over time. So I'm going to show you some examples of some of the project books that you can look at and how you can use them in a little bit.
And the cool thing about project books is they are those fancy curriculum. And part of your membership dues actually allows you to get one for free every year. So if there's something you want to try, especially if it's something new, you can get one for free every year. And then as you finish it, we'll give you another one and we'll kind of help you along that project book journey. But we do have them in office. So if you're ever curious about what we have or what you might be able to get started, just let us know and we will take you back and show you the big wall of project books. For those of you that have been in our little dungeon, you kind of know that there's tons of books back there. So if you think it, it's probably back there.
And also you can go on the 4-H website and shop for project books. And before you buy it, I mean, tell us and we buy it for you. So we don't have every single book because they're constantly being created. But if you see one you like and we don't have it, we will order it for you and have it delivered.
Record books are a little bit different. So record books are typically used for yearly projects, oftentimes with animals, because those are your short-term projects. Most of those animals don't come home with you after the fair. So you're kind of done with that project because the animal is gone. For animals that you use frequently, like our horses or our dairy animals, it's the same book year after year. So the cool thing about record books is the report's built into it. So you don't have to print or download anything extra. You just fill it out as you go. So record books, the point of them are to keep records. So this is where you keep track of all of the time, the money, the extracurricular stuff that you're doing. If you breed your animals as part of that project, you use it for that. Again, they're the same record books year after year. So if you've downloaded it the year before, it's pretty much going to be the same one. If you don't have access to a printer, we can always print it for you. And there are a few record books that are 100% digital now, so you can just type in your answers versus have to print and write on them. The cool thing about the reports within your record book, since it's already built in, Key and Kai actually do this, and they do a really great job, where they only have to fill out one report for all of their record books, but they're built in, so it's kind of already, it's all the work's done for you. So I have two examples. I have, if it'll show it, gotta love the virtual background. So this is the goat one. There we go. So it goes over all the stuff like what you need to purchase, their health, their vaccination records, and then the horse one, which is our most commonly one used because I'm the main agent and I make all my horse kids fill this out every year. Keeps track of everything that comes in and out of your project and ends with the story. So that is the difference. Are there any questions between the two of them? All right, so here's going to be your first little quiz in the chat. I want you to type which one is the one that you fill it out and it's all about your individual project. Is that project or a record book? See one from record. 2 for record. 3 for record. Yep. So it's definitely going to be a record book. If you're doing all of the work and filling in all the boxes, that's going to be the record book. If it is answering questions to like a test or a quiz, that's going to be your project book because that's like a curriculum. So they're teaching you the things. Record books are where you tell us what you did. All right, good job, guys. Okay. So Mr. Ted's going to go over some project book examples.
Okay, so these are just examples that I thought were interesting. This is the 4-H Officer's Handbook, and I'm gonna order these, I think, for our officers if they want to do them, because it helps them stay organized, and it's basically all of the things that they would be doing normally as an officer. This is for county council, and basically they record what they're doing already, and they can have something to show for it and a reference for later, and something to keep really forever to remember their leadership activities in county council. So if you go to the next one, please. That's one example. But really, actually, the 4-H Officer's Handbook is actually good for any club because it's not just for county council. Really, all the clubs should have officers performing certain duties, so it helps remind them of what their specific duties are and how to improve. So it's a very good resource. Another project book I like is The Writer in You, and there's a lot of different writing activities, which I like a lot, and it allows you to kind of analyze your own writing and and it brings out from within you the things that you've read, the authors you like, and I like it because it's kind of more of a journal that records all of your writing. And if you want to go to the next slide, theater, we even have theater arts and all different levels. So if you're interested in theater, so I'm just kind of trying to give a broad, but it goes much beyond this. I mean, there's science project books, animal science project books, environmental science project books, any subject that you're interested in, even the least bit, you will find a project book on that subject, pretty much. I mean, if you can't find it, then it's definitely out there somewhere, I'm sure. So, you know, I'm really interested as a newer agent with getting club leaders involved with using more project books in their clubs, because sometimes they feel like after having met with the same youth for months and months, they're not sure what activities to do. And this is something that kind of allows everyone to work individually, but also as a group. And it's a really interesting concept. If you could go to the next slide. And cooking. So anyone that attended the 4-H or the 4-H Nassau County St. Mary's Club Dominica meeting knows, or watched the video of our meeting. It was really interesting because in Dominica, and I guess all over the Caribbean, they have a very well developed culinary arts program in 4-H, which I think it would work really well in Nassau County to see more people cooking. And it's a skill that's so needed for young people, and it's a lot of fun, and you can be creative, and it's really easy to share what you've done over video or in person by sharing the food. So, and I think this is another really good project book that clubs could use as well, because everyone has a kitchen and everyone can cook once they learn. So this kind of breaks it down into, especially the 101, it really breaks it down into very basic steps. So and it gives youth a lot of confidence to be able to cook their own food, and I think it's really cool. So if you want to go to the next slide. That's the last one. But so I only chose 4, but because there's literally hundreds and hundreds of topics. So I think a lot of like youth and club leaders don't know how many resources are really available, and they're very low cost, really, compared to like Amazon. If you have to buy it, and if you have to buy for your club, you can do. I mean, if you have to buy them for your club, we get bulk discounts on larger orders. So it's also a way to you could possibly also do fundraising to raise money for that.
Yeah, and definitely. I know a couple of our friends that are on the call. Like I know Charlie and Briar probably. I've seen you guys fish, and we even have a 4-H fishing book. So it doesn't always have to be the traditional animal science. You can always fill that too if you like getting outside and doing fishing stuff. Like literally, it's everything.
I might do that one myself because I want to learn how to fish, but I don't have anyone to teach me. So I actually would like to do that.
Charlie seems to like that. Yay, Charlie!
Fishing club.
And Charlie's done some cool ones too. He's actually done stuff with these small engines. We have robotics and woodworking. Literally everything, y'all.
Yeah, if anyone wants to start a fishing club or knows of someone that wants to start a fishing club, I actually would love to start a fishing club. So just throwing it out there.
So record books. So if we talk about what we dominantly see turned in on June 1st, I would say 90% of all our books are always record books. And most of them at this time, because I make it mandatory, are mostly our horse kiddos. But record books are available for all different species. So if you're doing it, there's a record book for it. Or if you participate in the fair, you already have a record book for it. Again, it's the same download year after year, so you don't have to worry about scrambling to find the most up-to-date edition. Occasionally they'll update them, but if that happens, just ask me and I can always get you the newest version. If you do want to use the one from the fair that you've already turned in, all you have to do is just add that additional report that is by age category. So if you're a junior, an intermediate, or a senior, there's just a report to put on top of it and you're done. So you've already filled out the record book, you're just filling out those other questions like talking about your goals and writing that project story. One report can cover multiple record books. So a good quality report talks about your entire 4-H year, not necessarily just one 4-H project. So a good quality report can actually cover multiple. And if you do one really good record book with a really good filled out report section of that record book, you can even have a record book and a project book and only still have to just fill out the record book part because the report's built in. It's a little bit confusing, but know that it's actually less work. All right. And so the big part of the record book is the actual record keeping part. So those of you that have seen it before know that we ask you a lot of weird questions like, what's in your tack box? How much did you spend on feed? When was the last time your farrier came out? How often are you working with your project animal? So all of that is the record. Probably have something in it. The only exception is if you are breeding or not breeding an animal, they often ask about the breeding section. But for the most part, you should be able to put something in every box. So the report and the story itself. What we are going to give you a red, blue, a white, or a participation ribbon for is basically that report. So if you know that's where all the big stuff is going to be graded on, that's what you're going to be focusing on. The cool thing about a report is that every member can fill one out and get credit for it, even if they don't have a book. So your report should be able to encompass your whole 4-H year. So even if you don't have a book to go with it and you want to fill out the report, you can still get a fair point for filling out that report because that's what we're really grading. Again, everything is age category. So we know that an 8-year-old's report and story is going to be very different than our 18-year-olds. And the things it asks you about are your goals, your challenges, your successes. And there's parts of it that you fill out before you even start your project. So things you fill out in September or things you fill out just at the end. No matter what, effort and the amount of detail are what's going to be rewarded. And we'll look at some examples that you guys will be absolutely shocked, but they are true examples of what we've seen in the past. So just know that the more effort, the more elaboration, the more detail you can give, the better score you're going to get. So moving forward, goals. So one of the first things it talks about in your reports, in your record books, in your project books, all of it talks about your goals. So for my friends that were with me on Saturday, we did actually a mini goals workshop. So can one of you unmute and give me an example of a SMART goal that you've set?
To be able to side pass by the end of the year?
Good, to be able to side pass by the end of the year. So that's a good example. Lainey, did you want to give yours too?
To back the L.
To back the L? Okay, so those are some examples of their okay goals, but we know to have a really good goal, we have to be specific on what we want to accomplish. We have to have a way that we know we've accomplished it. That's that measurable aspect. So how do we know we accomplished it? It has to be something you can actually do and that makes sense for where you're at, and you have to give it a deadline. So one of the goals that we had talked about at that workshop was, I want to win 6th place or better in my showmanship class at Area North. So that's a great goal because it encompasses everything that we know. Yes, this is how I know I've succeeded at my goal. this is my deadline for doing it, and this tells me what I have to work on to accomplish it. So that's a great goal. So the other thing with your record and reports is you can have multiple goals. So what I've told a few of the youth that I've worked with is it's really good to have a goal for yourself as a human. So what do you want to accomplish on a human level? And then what do you want to accomplish within your project? So most of us want to win things as part of our project. We want to take home big trophies, we want to take home ribbons, or we want to do better than we have the previous year. Most of us forget that part of that project is becoming better ourselves. So maybe it's to learn something new, be a little bit more brave when doing a speech, things like that. So those are going to be the goals for yourself. The other thing you have to remember is just because you set the goal doesn't mean you have to accomplish it. So a lot of youth are really afraid to set a goal and not reach it. And they think they're going to get points taken off their score if they don't reach their goal. And that is not true. As long as you understand why you didn't reach it, it's still appropriate. So if your goal was to become grand champion, have the grand champion goat at this year's fair, and you don't reach it, that doesn't mean you failed your project. So don't be afraid to set a goal, even if you don't think you're necessarily going to win it. Any questions about goals? They're a pretty big deal. No? All right. Moving on to the project story. So if we're talking about where Mr. Ted and Ms. Kelsey are going to spend most of our time reading stuff and figuring out your grade, it's this section. So the project story is probably one of the most critical pieces of the entire book. We do grade it by age category. So if I have a 8-year-old turning in something that sounds like the parent or a 16-year-old wrote, probably going to give you a call and we'll be a little suspicious. I don't think we're going to have that problem here though. But we do look at it appropriately. So we know that the goals and the stories and successes are going to change as we grow as humans in our age. Your project story should include what you learned that year and how it helped you as a human. So there's always those two pieces. I think to make it really easy, I do a paragraph for each. So I do a whole paragraph about what I learned in my project area. So what are the skills that I learned that year? And then I do a paragraph about what it helped me as a human. So maybe I got better at leading meetings this year, or maybe I got braver at speaking. Maybe I worked on my leadership. I mean, we included this lovely wheel right here because these are the words that we're looking for to see you grow as humans year to year. So an easy one that pretty much everybody will have is responsibility. If you're doing any kind of project book, you are responsible for doing that project book or taking care of those animals. So how did you get better at being responsible? It's easy. The story can be up to 3 pages. And the reason we say it can be that big is because we really do want you to include as much detail as you need to tell that story. This is the place where you get to tell me the good, the bad, and the ugly of what happened that year. I wish I could hang out with you guys all the time, but you get to do way more stuff than I'd ever be able to see. So if you had a really great workshop that you went to, or you had a really hard year with that animal, this is your chance to tell me that. I want to know it all. So don't feel like you don't necessarily have to include something, but this is your chance to really let me know what was your year like. Yeah. Any questions about the story? No, you guys got this. All right. So now Mr. Ted's going to give you some ideas on how to bring home the blue for that project book.
All right, so how to win the Blue Ribbon Award. So only the main thing you want to remember is that only completed books can receive the project pin, and you're going to receive recognition also at the annual banquet. So the books, first of all, to receive the blue, they have to be legible, which means that you can read it. The handwriting has to be readable. Has to be clean, so there shouldn't be dirt all over it and ripped pages and smudges. and it should be correct with good spelling and grammar. So with this, you can have someone else read it and do a rough draft, have someone check your spelling, check your grammar, because it's very important. I mean, it really says a lot about you as to how conscientious you are with your writing. So if there's a lot of spelling and grammar mistakes, even if the content, and I struggled with this a lot when I was younger, but even if the content is good, people will still judge you on the grammar and spelling, and it really is important. So it's really easy to fix. Actually, just send it to me and before you turn it in, and I'll check your grammar and spelling and send it back to you full of red ink. And you just have to rewrite it. But it really is something, if you want to look back on it in 20 years, you'll want to see that it's like very well done and you'll be proud of yourself. And it's something you can keep forever. So the presentation matters. If you have multiple books together, they should be separated with tabs. You can put it in a binder. So these are all things that you can also ask us about, and we'll help you organize it and prepare it and make it so it's presentable. And you can add in photos, any items, additional items that go with it are all going to add to the story. So you're really just kind of creating a story and a record of what you've done. And the more complete it is and the more carefully constructed it is, it's really, ultimately, it's better for you, because, you know, there are parents who have these and grandparents who have these their whole lives. So take your time, really. So it's, a lot of people try to rush it, and I think that's the biggest problem. They don't put their best work into it. They just want to get it done. But the more time you put into it, it's going to turn out a lot better in the end. And year over year, just look at the comments that we write for you, or what we tell you about it, and you can improve for the next year. And it's really that simple.
So the other part I wanted to talk about tonight were your photos. So every project or record book is going to require you to add some additional photos. And so the photos actually are a huge part of your score. So we do score you on your photos and their captions. And so the captions is going to be that part to remember. We love action shots. So if you're actively working with your animal or actively involved in your project and you just caught the fish, or you cooked a really cool meal that you're really proud of, those action shots they really tell your story. You also want to include quality captions. So I like this example because this is a picture with me and my horse. So the top is what I see in a lot of record books. I see a picture and the caption says, "Me riding my horse." And this is one of those moments where I go, yep, that's exactly what you're doing. That's a caption I could have understood on my own. So if you have to spell it out, then the picture doesn't tell a good story. Whereas if we look at our bottom photo, I said this was the first lesson. So this is what made this photo really important. I talked about how I was nervous, and this is why. This is what made the story important. So your photos shouldn't be included just for the sake of having a photo. They should be important. We want to see the hard times too. So if there's a time, and I saw it in this swine project book, and it's probably one of my favorite photos I've ever seen. There is a picture that someone included in their record book of them covered in mud and poop because they got into a wrestling match with their pig. I loved that because it really shows the truth of your project. It's not always smiles and posing. Sometimes y'all get dirty. And those are the times that I really enjoy those moments because I get to know you guys a little bit better. So don't be afraid to include some of those funny photos. But ultimately, if you include a photo, it should have a purpose. So in 10 years, when you look back at that record book, is it just another photo of you standing there smiling with your thumbs up? Or is it a photo that you said, man, that was a really important part of my year. I'm glad I included that. And let us know why it was important too. So photos do matter. It is a scored component. So breaking down the rubric, we have an example of the intermediate rubric on the next page. But essentially, just fill in the blanks. You know, we all kind of tell you, do it by the book, do it by the rubric. If it tells you you need to have this and this done, do those things. If it says we're looking at photos with captions, do your photos have captions? We spell it out and we make it easy. None of this is hidden. And Mr. Ted and I do not play favorites when it comes to scoring. So just because we really like you doesn't mean you're going to get a blue, because we follow the rubric too. So these are just some of the things that are included in the rubric. And it is progress from year to year. We don't have a problem here, but in some counties where they are required every single year as part of their membership to turn in a record book, we don't have that problem here. Some people will just copy it year to year, and cheaters don't prosper. Don't be those people. So here's an example of the intermediate record book and project book score sheet. And the reason I chose the intermediate is because that tends to be one of our largest age groups. So this is going to be the one we're going to be using the most. So if you look, you get a whole 5 points for setting goals. Ta-da! 5 points right there. If you give me a really low scoring goal, you're going to get 1 point. If you leave it blank, we're not giving you anything. And here's the next easy give me one. This is another 5 points of just what my leader or guardian has agreed to help me do. You're not doing these projects on your own. So if you've asked your club leader to show you some showmanship tricks, or to help you find your project animal, or to teach you how to sew, whatever you've already asked them to do, you just make sure you write it down. That's easy. Super, super easy. And that's 10 points right there. That's the difference between one color or the other. So do those two things and you're doing pretty good. So, ooh, I got some chatties. Is everyone able to still see my screen okay? Can you give me a thumbs up if everything's still good? Okay. I'm in a new place, so I don't know if my internet's good or not. Keep me on track, guys. So the next part is going to be the project highlights, your accomplishments. Did you make progress towards your goals? Now, this doesn't say, did you achieve your goal? It just says, did you work towards it? So again, if you set that goal and you didn't reach it, it's totally okay. You're not scored against it. We just want to see that you tried to get it. Did you improve your skills? Hopefully, yes. This should be easy. And if I'm reading your book, I should look at that and say, oh yeah, they definitely got better this year. Do you have future plans? Sometimes your future plans is as much as, I'm going to try something new this year, or next year I need to work on this. Maybe you want to try something like a new contest or enter a new class within the fair. Do you have some kind of plan for next year? Easy. The next is going to be, so these are the two pieces that everyone kind of gets tripped up on. So I'm gonna take a second to talk about these. Project leadership. So we talk about leadership a lot, and what that means is, how are you being a leader in your project area? Are you giving speeches? Are you volunteering to help your club leader teach? Are you helping Miss Kelsey at one of our horse clinics? Are you helping Mr. Ted at one of his events? How are you being a leader? And sometimes that's, hey, we have a brand new member and they're really new and really scared. So they hung out with me at the first meeting and I kind of was their buddy for the day. That's leadership. It's absolutely leadership. I know Lauren and Lainey, you guys had a great moment of it. I'm gonna pick on you a second, where we had a member who missed a hippology meeting. So they said, oh, just have them call me. We can tell them what they missed. So that's leadership. So how you build that community and saying, oh, I know what's going on. Let me help you get better too. This is usually a block where people just leave it blank because they don't understand what that question is. You guys are doing it. You just didn't know you were. So citizenship is kind of different. So citizenship could be as much as, I always lead the pledges, or I made sure that we helped out at the cleanups this year, or I helped fundraise for someone else. So citizenship is a little bit harder to define, but it's any of your citizenship activities with or within your project. This could be, did you go to 4-H at the Capitol? Did you do anything cool where you learned about government? Did you volunteer? That's all your citizenship. So anything you're really volunteering for, that's probably going to fall in that category. The project book itself is only 20 points. AKA, did you fill it out? Are there things in blanks where there should be things in blanks? Pretty easy. 10 points is your pictures, which we know now have to have a purpose and have to have a good caption. That's easy. Super, super easy. And the 10 points is the project story. And that's it. So if you actually look at the rubric, it's not that hard. Fill it out and put a little effort into it and you're fine. You're totally fine. Any questions on the rubrics? And these rubrics do get a teeny bit harder as you get older. So my Cloverbud rubrics, you're gonna get a green participation anyway. So we just wanna see that you're doing it and you're putting some effort in your learning. Your juniors, you got it real easy. The points are a little bit different. My seniors, Emma, you got to see it this year. The senior one's a little bit more intense because we wanna see that you're participating more, you're doing more, you're growing more. So just know that as you get older, our expectations get a little bit higher. All right, here comes the fun part. This is where Mr. Ted and I get to laugh and you guys get to laugh with us. Because some of these examples are awful. I'm gonna start off with a few examples that I have borrowed from some of you guys that are actually on the call right now. And these are my good examples because I wanted to show you some actual written examples. And then I have a couple that I have rewritten myself because I didn't want to call anybody out. So if I have asked to borrow your record book for this year, thank you for donating your skills. So as we move through the first couple of slides, Mr. Ted and I are going to kind of lead the conversation. And then the last two, you guys are going to be the judge. So that's that interactive part. You get to unmute and tell me all the good and the bad. All right. So first off, we are going to pick on Emma. So Emma always does a really, really good job with her project story. If we look at the link here, man, I'm actually getting to see her whole story. This is really important because I got to hear the good and the bad, the hard, the new, and she talked about all those things that not only she learned within her project, but how it helped her as a human. So this is an excellent example of a project story. She always has good quality photos, but what are we missing here?
Captions.
Captions, yep. So she has great photos. I don't know what's going on. To me, that's just a picture of a horse. So making sure that the photos are really important. Since she turns in record books, I included some of her record, and she's really good about getting almost there. And then what are we missing? This is the interactive component.
The total.
Yeah, so we're missing some totals. So these are points that are easy to miss, but these are points that count off. So as much as just figuring out how much the horse was cost that year and bringing it down to the total would have given her a whole another point. So if there's a blank, something should probably be in that blank. But Emma typically gets blues on her stuff because she puts a lot of high quality effort throughout the book in general. But there's always bits and pieces that could be better. There's no perfect record book. The other example that I pulled was Keys. So Key and his brother always do multiple record books each year. I know Melissa puts a lot of effort into making sure they do high quality record books. And so in terms of his record keeping, oh my gosh, do you guys see how detailed this is? This is awesome. They're really, I mean, he went down to the cents on some of these. Really, really great stuff. And so what were my successes in this project? I was proud when I went to Farm Bureau and gave a speech on 4-H. That's a really cool moment. So it doesn't always have to be, I won the blue ribbon. It could be something special that you got to accomplish that year. Considering his age, these are totally appropriate levels of responses to these questions. If he was closer to 16 or 17, we may want a couple more sentences. So just know that if the more detail you can give, the better. He also does a great job of including photos, and we have captions like third place showmanship. All right, that's pretty cool. But again, we could always add more detail to these captions and really tell that better story. So these are really great examples. So from looking at Emma's and Key's, what else did you guys notice that was good? Ooh, y'all are quiet. I'm gonna have to start calling on people. Mr. Ted, what else did you see with them?
I like the pictures. The fact that they have a caption. And the record, I mean, just the detailed records, I think.
Yeah, they always put a lot of effort. And so the other good thing that I always appreciate about Key and Kai's record books is they're in one binder and they're always divided by the section. So when I go to grade them, it's super easy. And the one thing you will learn as you continue to grow and succeed in life, if you make it easy to grade, you often get better grades. So the easier we can read it, the easier we can find things. If we know you answered the question, you are doing really, really well. If you have to make us hunt for it, not as good. So make it clear. All right. Here's examples, and this is a senior. So this is a senior record book. So I want you guys to look at it and unmute or type in the chat the good things, the bad things, what you see, and what you would grade it as. So just tell me what you think of it. And if you don't want to type, just unmute and you can kind of talk. And I should hear something from every single one of you.
There could be longer sentences.
Yeah.
Some of
So
the goals are good.
yeah, so the content is good, but the presentation's a little bit off. So if they would have wrote a whole sentence, it definitely would have added to that presentation. Good. What else do you guys? Jack agreed, more sentences. Garrett, he thinks that there's some clear thoughts, but it's a little broken up and hard to follow. I would agree. Yeah, so as a judge, if I'm reading this, I'm going, okay, what are we talking about? So yeah, excellent. Overall, do you think this would still score pretty high though? Yes, no, maybe so. Emma says yes, Garrett says yes. Yeah. So this is one of the higher scoring record books. So the other things I want to point out is the involvement with the citizenship. So this was a poultry project, so they donated eggs for embryology. They helped take care of the poultry during the fair. And then they helped with something that wasn't even poultry related. They helped out with the county cleanup. So these are all examples of things you can put in that box. again, that tends to be one people just leave blank, and that makes me very sad. So these are easy, easy things. All right, you guys ready for the fun one? This is an actual example. I just rewrote it. So this is an intermediate. So this is age 11 to 13. And this was what was turned in. So what are you guys seeing here?
It sounds like we're bragging about winning.
Yep. Definitely lack of attention.
Not a lot of detail that much.
Yeah, no detail.
Longer sentences.
It needs longer sentences.
Yeah, it needs sentences in general. So, Raylan, I am not able to hear you, so I don't know what's going on with your thing. So we didn't showcase Kai's project story. So that's maybe where you got confused. I kind of picked out some other parts of his record book, and I just showcased different things. So hopefully that answered your question a little bit better. So yeah, so let's talk about this box right here, my citizenship activities. What is the big problem there?
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
No words.
Just, yeah, nothing. Don't do this, y'all. Fill it in. Put something. And if you don't know what you did, call Mr. Teddereye. We could probably help figure it out for you. Please don't leave it blank. Awards and recognition. They got ribbons. It's not very helpful, is it? Were they good ribbons? Were they bad ribbons? What were the ribbons for? Yeah, what do I want to do next year? Win more. Not exactly a great goal. But these are things that I have seen. It makes me very sad. So do you think this record book got a blue? No.
No.
Oh,
So don't do this. I'm pretty sure everyone's in agreement. We're not going to do this, right? Thumbs up. Please don't do this to Miss Kelsey or Mr. Ted. Yeah, yeah. Excellent. So this is pretty much it. We showed you the good. We showed you some ugly, that's for sure. The cool thing about your record books, they are always, 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 always due June 1st, except those that want to show horses. To be graded, just like Mr. Ted said, in order to get a blue or a pin, it has to be complete. So that goes for both project and record books. They have to actually be complete. And then we'll score you. So any questions so far? Hopefully you guys learned a little bit of something.
Hey, Miss Kelsey.
Yes.
Oh, you can finally hear me. That's good.
Yay.
Okay, so what I'm trying to ask is, I've seen that, and I'm just going after Kai's because that's the one I saw first, but he has there was a question and then he answered it, and then a question and he answered it, right, in that example. And is that, because I've seen that before and I got confused between that little pamphlet, it asks, maybe it's at the end of the record book and maybe that's what I'm confused about.
Yeah, so this picture right here, the prompt and the question and answer, that is part of the record or the report. So he did the full report because he also does project books.
Okay, so some of that information though might also be in that
Record book.
project story, what you talked about skills learned and help me as a human, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
clear now. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's a little bit hard because there's a couple of different moving pieces. So the record books pretty much have it built in, but because they do multiple projects, they fill out the report and it kind of covers their whole year in general.
Okay.
Rather than just the horse or just the sheep. Whereas Emma's story, hers, because she only turned in the horse record book for this, it only talks about the horse project. But if you actually read it, it talks about the other things she was involved in, like county council and even some non-4-H things.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
And
you.
good question.
Kelsey, I don't know if you answered this already, sorry, but Garrett is asking if he's starting late, can he still do one?
Absolutely. So a lot, like I said, we always have till June 1st. So you have plenty of time. Those that have done the fair books, you'll just use the ones that you used from the previous year. So even if you did not sell an animal at this year's fair, you can still use that record book and turn it in. So that still counts. And if you're late, I'll still take you. All right. So, are there any other final questions before we do our wrap-up poll? Ooh, good. That means you guys learned a little bit of something. All right. So, for those of you that are going to be watching this recording later, there is a quiz in addition to what you're seeing on the poll. So this doesn't apply to any of my friends watching live. Y'all are good. Don't worry about it. But if you're watching this at the recording, make sure you fill out the quiz in order to get the fair point. So we're going to relaunch our poll and see how you guys do. So go ahead and fill it out again. The last point I'll talk about is, so when Mr. Ted and I divide our books up on how we grade, we kind of go by the areas that we're special in. So you don't have to worry about us struggling to understand what you're doing in a project area if it's something we don't know anything about ourselves. So Mr. Ted will handle all your citizenship and your more artistic things. If you're doing animals, you're going to hang out with me anyway, so I'll be reading your books. So if you have specific questions about a project book, you may have closer luck trying to get to Mr. Ted or I based on what subject you're working on. All right. So we're going to end polling. We're going to share these results. For this question, for those of you that haven't done a project or record book with me before, hopefully you feel confident doing one this year. It's really not super, super bad. You just can't wait till the last minute. So hopefully we'll get to see this be welcome to the party of record book world. True or false, record books have the report built in? True. Look at all y'all. Got it perfect. True or false, one report can be used for multiple project books? This is true. So you can fill out one record report and it covers everything. Can Mr. Ted or Ms. Kelsey help you? Yes, and absolutely. Let us know if you need anything. We are happy to help. If you use your fair record book, yep, you can turn it in. We just need that report on top. And they are always due June 1st. Who did the Star Wars the 1st of June? Just curious. All right, so with that, we are officially done. I will hang on a few more minutes if you guys have any questions that you want to ask that